Now, Katie Pavlich from Town Hall joins us on the program. Katie, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you? Happy Friday.
Friday is good. Friday is good. It started very early this morning. Just so you know, we're powered by 5-hour energy this afternoon.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
You know, that's most days. So I know that you're probably used to it and a pro.
All right. So let's talk about your piece at Town Hall. I thought this was a very interesting column, a liberal, not just acknowledging that she's a gun owner, but actually talking about how it's fun to go to the range, why it's, why sort of coming out of the shadows and acknowledging that, yep, I'm a gun owner. There's no problem with this. And the only problem I really had was from the people who I thought were my progressive liberal friends.
Yeah. So this woman named Jenna Glasser published a piece in what is a website called XO Jane, which is more of a feminist pop culture website. And so you can imagine the side of the spectrum they usually fall on. And the title of her piece was "I'm a left with a gun." And it really was such an incredible piece because she talks about how, she's on all sorts of issues, All
right. So she's the victim of multiple break-ins, and finally she just says enough, right?
Right. Well, my favorite part about this piece is that she talks about how, people ask her, well, why do you need a gun, or why do you think that that's the solution to your problems? And she talks about how her house was broken into multiple times, how she had multiple conversations with detectives and knew immediately the questions they would be asking, and that it was just a matter of time until someone came by while she was at her house, right? And she makes the point that we all make in that, look, this is a choice that I have made for myself. This is a choice that I made for me, and that's my best option here to defend and protect myself. And that's something that, nobody else should be making decisions about, and that's basically our main point. So it was really interesting to see her firsthand experience in explaining to her liberal friends who were kind of appalled that she would even go down the route of owning a firearm, explaining to them that, look, this is my choice and this is my best option. She also talks about how she did all these other things before she decided to purchase a gun, right? She got bars on her windows. She got an alarm system. She got a video camera installed in her house so she could see what was going on. But in the end, she talks all about how, it's one thing to get your stuff stolen, but it's another to feel mentally incapacitated and scared all the time, knowing that someone's been in your space and that you can't defend yourself. So I really encourage people to go read her whole piece. It's very good. Again, it's at xojane.com. And she really just goes through her entire thought process of how she got to the point of being a gun owner. And, and then she gets to the point, too, where she's like, look, shooting a gun is fun, and that's something that people won't tell you when you read about what the gun debate. So I just thought it was a really interesting counter argument used on that website. It was put in the unpopular opinion section, which it might be unpopular on that website, but then I reminded everyone in my piece that her position on her own ownership of her own firearm is the position held by the rest of the country, the majority of the country.
I think you're right. And, it was interesting. Again, what I thought was really interesting was that acknowledgement that she had a harder time, and I've heard this from a lot of other people, that she had a harder time being a gun owner with her progressive friends than she had being a progressive at the range.
Right, exactly. And that's how it always is, right? I mean, that we could go into a whole separate talk about how that is with separate topics, whether it's gay marriage or anything else. I mean, I feel like the conservative, what they would call right wing of the spectrum, is actually a lot more tolerant than the left wing. And that's one very interesting part of this piece, too, is how she explains to, it's like she's outing herself. She's coming out of the the gun owner closet in Texas, of all places, right? And trying to explain to her friends who are supposed to care for her deeply, look, I have been a victim of crimes. I feel uncomfortable. And she talks about openly how her gun was her peace of mind and how she could go to bed at night feeling like if something happened, she was confident. And one of my favorite things that she put in the piece is, when you're confident at the range, you're also confident in other aspects of your life. And that is so true. It really does give you a whole new perspective. But I think it teaches gun owners something, too. If you have a lefty friend or someone who's an anti-gun person, if you take them to the range and you do it the right way, they're probably going to have a really good time, and they might want to come back, and they'll realize that the media has been lying to them about guns forever, right? And it will change their perspective. And, you know, it's unfortunate that being a victim of crime had to change hers, but it's really awesome now that she's talking about it and talking about the process and really promoting this idea of, look, this is my best option for me, and that's something that you should respect.
Absolutely. I'm glad that she did that. I will note, however, though, she didn't, at least that I recall, she didn't write about taking any of her friends to the range and them changing their mind. So, you know, I agree with you. I think I think you should, you know, always extend the offer. And I'm sure that she did. I just imagine that none of her friends were open-minded enough to take her up on that offer.
Yeah, maybe they weren't so willing, and that's something obviously you can't change. But, you know, there are some people who can, and I would hope that it doesn't take them feeling unsafe in their own home to get to that point.
Me too.
And luckily she lives in Texas, which is a place that allows her to exercise her freedom to protect herself, right? Whereas in other places around the country, people who have the same situation as she does don't have the luxury of being in the same convenient situation of being able to go out and purchase a handgun and keep it the way that she wants to.
Well, to that end, I've got to ask you before we let you go, Katie, I don't know if you've seen the story of the Washington Post, but in Arlington, Virginia, Nova Arms wants to open up a location on Lee Highway, and apparently there's a change.org petition that's been started demanding of the property owner not to lease this to a gun store there in Arlington.
To a private person. So we're doing the mob thing again.
We are, yes. We're doing the mob thing again because, according to the petition, there are there's an elementary school like a couple of blocks away. A farther distance away, there are a couple of more schools. And then within 5 miles, Katie, within 5 miles, there are something like 4 other schools. So we want to have some sort of 5-mile zone where you shouldn't be able to operate a gun store if there's a school anywhere within that 5-mile radius, which would mean your closest gun store would be out in Warrenton, I think, Clark Brothers.
Yeah, or Springfield. That's absurd. You know, we should
now Springfield. There are schools all over Springfield. You'd never open one up. Not even Lorton. I think Lorton Arms would have to close.
Yeah, we should start our own petition, and we should have a counter protest. It's not a protest. That's like a promotion. Like build the store. You know, I would be totally willing to organize that. Like a build the store Saturday. We're all out there with our signs saying build the store. This is absurd. I'm so sick of these people bullying private businesses into doing what they want because they don't understand what they're talking about. It's crazy. So maybe we should start our own petition and give these guys support, because I, for one, would definitely be a patron at their business.
All right. Well, you are closer to Arlington than I am, but I will gladly help out and lend whatever support I can to you. All right.
All right. Deal.
All right. Katie Pavlich, thank you so much for coming on the program. Enjoy your Memorial Day weekend.
You too. Thank you to all of those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice so we can live the way that we do. We'll never be able to thank them enough. Absolutely. Katie, thanks again. We'll talk soon. Have a good one. You too. Katie Pavlich joining us here on NRA News, Cam and Company.